everyone. It's been a long time since I talked about anything seriously legal. I guess I was busy trying to get the whole law and work and everything just out of my system for the whole of December. But now that it's January, I guess it's time to face my fears. Okay, it's not really fears, but I guess it's back to the grind and back to having new goals. Honestly, I'm not the sort of person who has any goals for work, because I feel that in this whole profession it's very standard. Every year you just increase by 1 PQE. There's nothing more you can fight for, and yeah, the only things you fight for are kind of maybe your bonus and your increment. But honestly, I also think there's a limit as to how much you can fight for, because the bosses just won't budge. Even if you feedback that your increment is not high enough, or if your bonus is not very satisfying, I don't think they will do anything about it. Every day you just fight for your own life and make sure that you get enough sleep, get enough rest, because it's not like you can go any faster or slower, or you can change anything by negotiation. In fact, I think if you were to fight for higher salary or higher bonus or whatever, your bosses will find you annoying and fire you first. Coincidentally and interestingly, there was this recent report about the record number of junior lawyers leaving the profession. I kind of found it amusing, but I don't think it was surprising. Maybe it was surprising to Law Society, but I'm sure it wasn't surprising to the bulk of junior lawyers. I guess there's some speculation as to whether this is related to COVID and the whole pandemic and all, but I don't feel so. I mean, I think COVID has just made it easier for people to go on interviews so that they can switch jobs. But I think the reasons for why people are feeling burnt out or feeling just exhausted doing work in this profession remains the same and has always been there. It's just that maybe COVID kind of made it easier for people to find something else to do, to find alternatives and to switch jobs. So I think that's the way I see the role of COVID, but not that COVID was the cause for people changing jobs or for people leaving the profession. I thought it would be nice to discuss this topic, even though I don't really know what sort of angle to take on this. And at the same time, I guess I will just try to enlighten anyone on the realities of the profession. I think I've said this so many times, but I'm really the sort of person who likes what I'm doing and who wants to do something that I like. And law is something that I like to do. I really love the exercise of giving clients advice, of referring to the law, of drafting agreements and facilitating transactions. I actually find all this super interesting, and it's also something that I feel is really like aligned with what my interest is and my strengths. So as a whole, I would think that this profession is something that I would like to do and I would like to pursue. But having said that, I feel that there are certain circumstances in this profession and in this entire industry that makes me reconsider whether this passion is worth pursuing. Which is kind of sad, right? Because it's like when you finally find something you like to do, then there are all these factors that stop you from doing what you like to do, and instead you are trying to consider things that you may not really like just so that you can have the benefits of other things. I know now it sounds very abstract, but maybe I'll just share like some of the problems with this industry. I can't say for sure that every lawyer is experiencing this, or every firm is like that, or every team is like that, but based on my own experience, there are certain problems that I think need to be fixed, yet I don't know how it can be fixed. I will try my best to explain everything as objectively as possible. So one of the problems in this industry is that you definitely do not have work-life balance. And I think the reason for this are caused by two things. First, your clients don't respect your boundaries. Second, your bosses don't respect your boundaries. And I think they could just both be mutually influenced. Like, your bosses don't respect your boundaries because the clients don't respect your boundaries. And to satisfy the clients, your bosses are also incentivized to kind of make you work longer hours or push you beyond your standard hours. Okay, now even when I say standard hours, I feel guilty because it is almost like it's expected that if you are a lawyer, there are no standard hours. Your hours are anytime. Basically, you just do how much work you need to do to meet your deadlines. And it can be working 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day. What are my standard hours? I don't even know what time I'm supposed to start on and end. Okay, I know I'm supposed to start at 9, but I don't know what time is my end time. It's like, after this time, I'm not sure if I can shut down my comm or I won't receive a call from my boss. It's like, there is no time like this. You sacrifice your personal time. And of course, personal time is just a broad concept, because what you do with your personal time are the details that you are sacrificing. For instance, family time, friend time, or like time to better your mental health, getting counseling, exercise. There's so many things that you can do in your personal time that you're sacrificing. While these things do not have monetary value, in that like you can't see it, in that you can't see them tangibly. Like, okay, time with my family, it's not very tangible. But I think in our generation, more and more people ascribe a certain form of value to all these things, like enjoyment, fulfillment, basically just doing things that you like outside of just work. When we don't have enough time to take care of our health or to spend time with our friends, to build relationships outside of work, I guess the industry as a whole, or the job, is just not very sustainable. Can you imagine living a life like that for the rest of your life? Over time, it is highly likely that you end up with no friends, distant from your family, and no hobbies. All these things will slowly fall away. Like maybe at the end of 50 years, you just realize that, oh, all I had was work, and that was all I accomplished in life. And if you think about your life backwards, like from the day of your death, would you want to have lived a life just doing work? I think it's kind of sad. You might just be so sucked into this whole profession and doing your work day and night, to the point where you just lose everything else. The way I say it sounds so trivial, but it is really quite a substantial problem. Another problem I also find in this whole industry is that I feel that the way law firms are run and the way bosses think is very backwards. The way organizations are run in the past is very hierarchical. Like the boss says A and then the employee has to do A. Essentially it's top-down approach. But I think these days, it's not that you cannot do a top-down approach, but you have to be open to feedback. Sometimes the bosses or like the people in the higher positions are not very open to feedback, which is very countercultural these days, because now organizations are learning how best they can improve, like for instance, employee welfare, or improve the organization, in fact, by receiving ideas from the employees and by getting 360 degrees feedback and all that. But this doesn't happen in law firm. It's very funny. You know, all those big businesses who are earning millions and billions even, or like international MNCs, they are all investing into promoting all this 360 feedback, how to build a culture with employees' input. But in a law firm, we are just like going against all these principles, even though these businesses have proven over and over that the way they function is way better, because they're the one earning billions and millions, right? Not us. I mean, if we're earning that much, I'm sure our compensation and benefits will be better, but yeah, but that will be a separate point. I guess as organizations are improving and moving forward in the way they are handling their employees and motivating employees to work better, to contribute ideas better, I feel that law firms are not exactly going that direction. They're just super focused on the work, like just being task oriented. It's not a people-focused place, I would say. It's not about like, how can I motivate my employees better? What kind of feedback can I take from them so that I can improve my leadership style, managing style? Well, I think the bosses do try and ask, but I'm not sure how much they're willing to change based on what they hear. From my experience, nothing much really changes. So over time, I have learned to reduce my feedback in that sense, or more like just let it go. So I will speak my point. If all I'm hearing are just justifications on their end, or like kind of excuses, I'll just be like, okay, I mean, I've stated my point and the point doesn't seem to be accepted or even considered, then I guess I've done my part, so I wouldn't push further. But honestly, I feel that an organization that progresses and is forward-looking will be very open to listening to the people on the ground, because we are the people on the ground, we are the people doing the groundwork, we are the people drafting the agreements, doing the advice, and we know how best to manage certain files or how best to manage the team. I mean, we are the people, the team is us. In fact, sometimes I feel that our boss don't recognize that how strong he is dependent on how strong the team is. If you have a weak team, you essentially have nothing. You have to do all the work yourself as a boss, and that is not possible. I think if you see your team as an extension of yourself, you will really be very interested to know them as a person, to care for them as a person, and also to hear their feedback and to hear their concerns and genuinely address them. But if you are hearing their feedback just to brush them off, or just to like come back with a, oh, but you know, this is why we do it, blah blah blah, and like just come with your justifications, then there's no point in the feedback in that sense, because why would I put my neck on the line and give you an honest feedback and potentially like insult or offend you, and then you might just cut my bonus for nothing, right? We are kind of backward looking in terms of our management and like team management, because work is not just about work. Work is also about managing people. You cannot, like, people are your resources and people are the key to having a better team. So I think that's something that our industry kind of doesn't focus on. And very closely linked to that is also our benefits. In the past, I think it was very good to be a lawyer because you had both prestige and a good pay as compared to most other professions. But today, I would say, to be fair, the prestige is still there because you're a lawyer and blah blah blah. But the salary is no longer there. There are many different industries that are paying way better than law firms are paying, because law firms are just so backward. You're just not earning the big bucks anymore. And if you're working for prestige, I guess the motivation is not that strong, because I would say, while passion a lot of people have, but a lot of people also lose over time, which is very sad because of all these other like poor working conditions, long hours and whatnot. It's like no matter how passionate you are about something, if you feel that your mental health is not good, you just don't have time to do other things, you don't have time for yourself, basically you just feel like your whole being is just not well, how can you pursue your passion? How can the passion still remain a passion? It will slowly fade away. So what's left will be just prestige. And the salary, honestly, is not fantastic at all. Like, there are so many industries really paying much better. In fact, tech companies are offering good salary, way better benefits. They're offering lunch even. I think because of all these changing industries and changing landscapes, right? Like the way businesses are evolving and tech is all rising. Now, for a law graduate, their alternatives are no longer just law firms or just doing law. They're looking like beyond the law industry already, because the law industry is no longer lucrative. Yeah, sad to say, and unfortunately, that is something that my bosses still don't recognize, that the law industry is no longer lucrative. Or maybe they do, which is why they try to cut costs here and there. In fact, I think law firms are the greatest cost cutters. They will cut every single thing that you have. Whereas you look at the tech companies, they're like, wow, flourishing employee benefits. It's so pathetic that sometimes we can't even claim cat fares from clients. That's how not lucrative working in the law industry is these days. Yeah, I would say in the past maybe yes, but now I think in terms of, like, if you want to compare across industries, being a lawyer is no longer that lucrative. So yeah, kill that myth and kill that thought and kill that stereotype, because lawyers are not rich. They work to their death, and there are people who are earning more but who are not saying, because I have friends who are working in other industries who are earning a lot more, but they're just keeping quiet. It's better nobody knows that they're earning that much, but they are. And sometimes they're earning even more for better hours. Finally, the last point I feel is a problem with this industry is also that I think the value of mentorship has fallen over time. I think in the past, many lawyers were very respected for the work they do and the way they train the people under them. So they are very hands-on. They will show them, how do you do this, how do you do that, how do you improve on this. But these days, as people climb up the ladder, their main thought is, okay, I'm just going to get slacker and slacker and slacker. I don't want to do the groundwork anymore. I don't want to teach. I don't want to train. I just want to be a delegator. That's the role of bosses as they get higher and higher in the ranks. They just become delegators. They'll just get a client, and okay, so and so do this file, so and so do that file, and then do they mentor you if they have time? And their time is so pathetic. It's like sometimes they squeeze time, right? While they're driving, they're trying to teach you something, ask you to read out an email and like tell them what you wrote in the advice. So this is how little or how much time, I don't know. Basically, the investment in you personally as a mentor is just diminished. They will just delegate even this mentor role, right, to someone else. Essentially, their role just becomes networking, pressing the send button on the email once you send them their work. Yeah, and I feel that then when it goes down to that level, then you just have less respect for the people you work for, because you just don't really see how you're learning from them. And when you look at their lives, you just don't feel inspired, or you don't feel like, oh, this is the life I want to work towards. I want to become such a good lawyer, or like such a good mentor, or such a good teacher. Like, there's no inspiration in that sense. It's just like, oh, what a disheveled life, and what a busy life. Like, my boss doesn't have time to spend with his family. My boss has so many files and so many clients that he can't keep up with all the deadlines, and he's just pushing us. My boss can't find good people to hire. I think the level of admiration and respect you have for your boss also correlates to the amount of effort and their willingness to invest in you. But because they don't, then I guess there's nothing much that you really admire. These days, I rarely hear people talk about their bosses in a manner that is like, oh wow, my boss is such a wonderful mentor, or such a wonderful teacher, or is very good at lawyering, or very good at this and that. Yeah, I rarely hear people talk about their bosses this way. In fact, most people are just like, oh, my boss just gave me a new file and I already am drowning in 10 other files. I think that's the reality of this industry. I don't know how, but I think it's a gradual thing with technology. Like, everything just moves faster and faster over time, and the bosses just keep up. The clients are moving faster, but because we are so backwards, we are struggling to be as fast as the clients. Businesses, they're getting more and more high-tech and wanting everything to be at lightning speed. And honestly, sometimes I ask myself, why do we need to keep up so badly? Like, do we really need to do things so quickly? Will somebody die if we don't? Nobody will die. It's just a matter of money, right? It's not life and death. It's not so crucial that I really need to like sacrifice all my Saturdays and all my weekday nights just to get this out for the client, right? Will the client die? I don't think so. So I think because of how fast the world moves, and then if our bosses all the more don't manage the client's expectations, or I think the industry as a whole just keeps giving in to all these demands and spoiling the market lah. If we keep feeding their expectations of having us do work on weekday nights or having us do work on weekends, then all these clients just get used to us working like that round the clock. But if everyone decides that, okay, we will not work on weekends and we will not work on weekday nights unless it's a life and death situation, which is rarely the case. It's just money. Everything is all about money. Okay, I'm not talking about those criminal lawyers, maybe it could be life and death, but for most of us doing corporate work, it's just money going round and round, right? So yeah, if all of us could actually just agree not to work ourselves so hard, then maybe our life would be better. But I don't know how all this thing works, because I know what my boss's reply is. They're like, oh, the Chinese lawyers work even harder, they're way faster and cheaper. And then another response I got was, we cannot turn away clients because once you turn them away, they will never come back. I think to me the question is it life and death? On a more personal note, I must say that I think my enthusiasm for doing law has definitely fallen over time. As you try to set aside time and space for yourself to recover, to learn and process, to also do your other earthly duties, right? Because we are not just employees, we are daughters, we are sisters, we are friends. We have a lot of other duties that we need to attend to. So as I tried to find space and time for all of these, I also feel more and more drained because I guess work does take up a lot of energy. Imagine if you work all your weekday nights. It's Monday to Friday is gone. You only have weekends. And sometimes even then your weekends are gone. As I get more and more tired, my enthusiasm also falls. Even though, of course, I do recognize that this is a field that I still am generally interested in doing. But this year, I think I was listening to a sermon and then the pastor was just sharing and getting us to reflect on why we are doing what we're doing. Yeah, so I think that train of thought and that line of reflection was very helpful for me, in that every morning or each day I start work, I ask myself, why am I doing it? And I tell myself, I'm doing it for the glory of God. So God is my master, and it's not all these demands of the world or like the demands of my bosses or my colleagues. Basically, I'm not here to fulfill the expectations of the people around me or my paymasters. Rather, I'm here to do my duty to God. So God is my master and my ultimate master. And God wouldn't want me to work myself too hard to the point where I cannot function as a normal human being. There are some points where I just tell myself, you know what, you can just do this tomorrow because you need rest today and you need to take care of your body because your body is the temple of God. And as I shifted my perspective in this direction, like, okay, I'm doing this to glorify God and God is my real master, not all these people around me. I guess from an internal point of view, I do feel that my attitude towards work, instead of like starting the day with sian again, another day of work, I do try and think of it as more of, I'm working for God and I'm working heartily for God. That's what I do on my end. Although I know for any real change to happen, two hands must clap. Like, it cannot just be every employee trying to like, okay, I'm doing this for God and then nothing else changes. I'm sure there is a limit to that lah. I hope my sharing has just shown you the realities of the industry. I don't want to scare anyone or like discourage anyone from pursuing law. I mean, I do think that what we are doing is a service to businesses and it's a service to others, and there are ways that we are glorifying God in our work or even in our workplace. I think I might offend a lot of people by saying this, but I think it all boils down to the people at the top, because as a junior lawyer and as people who are even in the mid level, because I have mentors and seniors, we all feel powerless. It's like we can't change much if the higher ups don't change. I think the problem is just very straightforward. I think if you treat people decently as a human and their needs are met, I'm sure more people will stay in the industry and pursue this passion. And I really, really hope something changes because I actually really like what I'm doing. But at the same time, I recognize that it's not sustainable. If I go at this rate, I feel I'll get heart attack or cancer or some critical illness very soon, you know. And that's completely not worth it. Okay, enough of my rant, but I'd just like to encourage all of you, whether you're a student or whether you're working day in and day out and it's very tough, very torturous, or I just hope that, yeah, you're able to see the why of what you're doing and always just remember that why and be motivated by it. Work hard, but don't work too hard. Okay, see you in my next video. Bye!